This is our take on our Christmas story. And remember, this is not a low budget movie. This is a no budget movie. Gosh, do I have a story for all of you today? It's based on a best-selling book. You won't believe how many copies were sold. It is quite a thick book, and we don't have time to cover it all. So we will start at the beginning. That is the beginning of Jesus, not the beginning of the world. We don't have that much time. Let's start scene 1. Do we have a Mary? Yes, we have a Mary. You need to come front and center. A long, long time ago, there was a girl named Mary. This is Mary. Mary lived in a village called Nazareth, and one day, an angel of the Lord named Gabriel appeared to her. Gabriel? After clearing their throats, he proclaimed, "Greetings, the Lord is with you." Proclaimed, "Greetings, the Lord." Mary didn't understand this or why that he was here. And she knew she was scared. Are you scared? A little more scared. Mary, you are seeing an angel. Even way back then, this wasn't what we would call normal. So Gabriel tried again. This time, he started with, "Do not be afraid." And this surprisingly worked, because we all know that the most effective thing when we are feeling scared is for someone to simply tell us to stop being afraid. Either way, Mary was now prepared to listen to what the angel had to say to her. And gosh, did they have a lot to say, with lots of large, exaggerated, gesticulating hand motions. He told Mary that she was going to have a baby, that this baby would be the Son of God. It would be a very special, holy baby. You're saying a lot without moving your arms. Very special, holy baby. You're talking. Now, Mary wasn't so sure. You see, she wasn't married yet, and she was so young, and this was a big responsibility. Gabriel did some more big hand movements. And in the end, or should I say beginning, Mary agreed. And this is the end of scene 1. Mary and Gabriel, you may return to your seats. But Gabriel, don't get too comfortable. I feel there are others that will need to be divinely told God's plan at a later time in this story. Next comes scene 2, and we meet Joseph. Do we have a Joseph? Excellent. Joseph, come front and center. This is Joseph. Joseph was troubled, very troubled. He didn't know what to do. You see, Joseph was engaged to marry Mary, but he had recently found out that she was going to have a baby, and it wasn't his. Joseph was a good man, and that is why he was having so much trouble figuring out what to do. You see, legally, Mary being pregnant was enough of a reason for him to renege on his promise of marriage, cast her aside, and find someone else with way less drama going on. But Joseph felt that this wasn't right. That was when an angel of the Lord came to Joseph in a dream. I told you it wouldn't be long, Gabriel. You're needed back in front, please. He told Joseph, "Do not be afraid." The angel again had a lot to say. He was a bit of a chatty angel. But anyway, they told Joseph he shouldn't be afraid by taking Mary to be his wife, that it was God's plan. They also told him she would bear a son and that they should name him Jesus. This was a bit of a shame, as Mary had always wanted to call her firstborn Sven. However, both Mary and Joseph were good at following directions God gave them, so the baby would be called Jesus. The angel also told Joseph that this was no ordinary baby. This was going to be a very special baby. He would save all people, and the people will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And that is the end of scene 2. Now, you're going to have to stay tuned for the rest of this story. It might be a little tricky because the original one is a real page turner, but I promise you it will be worth it. Okay, I'll give you a couple of hints so you know what to look forward to. I am just going to say a couple of words to spike your interest. Long distance travel, shepherds, assassination plots. Now I have your interest. And for any of you that might know how the story ends, whether rather starts, we want no spoilers. Step forward. There you go. Now, where did we leave off last week? Oh, yeah, with two of the world's favorite characters, Mary and Joseph, hearing from an angel about God's plan for them, a baby that was to be named Jesus. I think that essentially catches us up, which brings us to scene 3. Please, Mary and Joseph, we need you back in up front. Scene 3 opens with Mary and Joseph having to walk a long way. They are making a long trip to Bethlehem from Nazareth. Walk around and pretend you're on a long journey, maybe a little hot, sweaty, tired, but don't go off camera. This trip was all because the current emperor wanted to be able to collect more tax, and to do so, he needed to know exactly how many people were from the area. So everyone needed to return to their homeland to be counted. This is why Joseph and Mary were taking such a big trip when they were expecting a child, when it would have been much easier just to stay put with a heavily pregnant person. But that was not to be the case. They had been traveling for a long time, and when they finally did get to Bethlehem, there was no space left in the guest houses. Enter the innkeeper. The owner of our establishment was very apologetic, saying, "I'm very sorry. The guest rooms are already full." Joseph wearily explained that Mary probably couldn't have made it up the stairs anyway. Her time for delivering was near. So instead, the innkeeper welcomes the travelers into the downstairs section, apologizing that it might be a little too close to the animals, but at least it's clean and dry. Once you have welcomed them inside and settled them over near the manger. And you can have a seat, and the innkeeper can return to her seat. When the time came for Mary to deliver her child, she gave birth to her firstborn son. Wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in the manger. There's a baby behind the manger. That's it. That is all there is in the best-selling book about the actual birth of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. 2 sentences in the 102 verses that relate to the birth of Christ. The very reason for this whole celebration and season, there is only one verse that covers the actual birth. 2 sentences. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger. And even then, the second half of that sentence was more about what he was wearing than the birth. It's very much the Hollywood movie version. One minute she goes into labor, the next she is holding her beautifully wrapped, clean, smiling baby. But that is where we leave it this week. Stay tuned for all the visitors who come by to see the baby. Okay. Can anyone remember where we are up in the story? So Mary and Joseph had both heard from the angel Gabriel, informing them of God's plan for Mary to carry a baby who would be God amongst us. They went on a long journey to Bethlehem, where the baby, which they named Jesus, was a healthy 8 pounds, 6 ounces. That part I made up from Talladega Nights because there's no actual record. Now, as we continue with scene 4, our focus isn't really on our main characters in the story. However, we do still need them, as ultimately they are the focus of our whole story. So we will need those playing Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus to take a seat and get comfy upstage, because we will be calling on you again soon. I think we are ready to start today. Are you ready? Scene 4 features some sleepy shepherds and a lot of sheep. We might need to imagine all the sheep. We have supplied a couple to help you with your imagination, but there have been a whole flock. Shepherds and sheep, take your positions to the right. Shepherds, you're sleepy. Sleepy.
Oh my gosh.
You see, there were shepherds looking after their sheep not too far away from where Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus were. They were just doing their shepherd thing, laying around, chatting, napping, making sure there were no wolves sneaking in to steal a lamb or two, when suddenly, angel of the Lord, Gabriel, stood before them. Gabriel, we need you again. With his flashlight. There was a bright heavenly light. The shepherds were terrified. But the angel said, what does Gabriel say? Do not be afraid. And by golly, it worked again. The shepherds were no longer afraid. The angel continued, I am bringing you great news. And you're also right in front of the camera. Try it again. For a baby is born. The angel then continued to share exactly how great this was and that this special baby was the Messiah. He then gave very specific directions on how the shepherd could find the baby. But they weren't quite ready to leave. We need any of our extra angels up in front.
Ah,
And
ah,
and Shep,
yeah.
and then the angels left. Thank you. The shepherds said to each other, "We must go to see this special baby." So they got up and with haste followed all the directions given by the angel and found Mary and Joseph and the baby in the manger. The shepherds were so excited to see what they had heard about, and they shared with Mary and Joseph with lots of excited hand motions, excitement. They shared everything that the angels had said to them and what they had experienced. Mary treasured these words. Once they were done visiting, the shepherd returned to their fields, dancing, dancing, and praising God for all they had heard and seen. Thank you, shepherds. You might think this is the end of our story, but I still have a couple more characters I want you to meet. Although we are going to need to wait until next week to find out. If you Now, we left last week just after the shepherds had come to visit Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. They had been directed by some angels while they were there out in the field looking after their sheep. Oh, and for anyone who missed the first couple of weeks, Jesus was the Son of God, or the incarnation of God on earth, which Mary and Joseph had been charged with protecting and bringing into the world. The story of these characters has been on our main focus, and we need these actors every week, even if they mostly sit and wait for visitors. So, Mary and Joseph, they have taken their positions back near the manger for one last installment of this Christmas story. Today, we will also be using our wise men and women. Maybe this is something like Ghostbusters, Elementary, Doctor Who, and Ocean 8. Enter the wise men and women. These are our wise people. Or shall we call them magi? They are astronomers who study the stars, and they had noticed a new star in the heavens and set out on a journey to find where it led. They traveled very, very long distances, which might be represented now by slowly wandering around our space, slowly wandering, in search of the king they believed the star was representing. At one point, they went and saw King Herod, thinking that maybe the king they were looking for was connected to him somehow. That would make sense, only to have a super awkward encounter when they discovered the king represented in the heavens had nothing to do with the reigning existing king. That sparked Herod's interest and jealousy over who this new king might be. But the Magi didn't let this slow them down too much. They just knew they needed to return home a different way to stay away from King Herod. So they are on this journey guided by that star, and they settle over the manger scene. The Magi followed the star until he stopped over this very special spot. Entering, they found Mary and Joseph and Jesus. Seeing Jesus with his mother, they knelt to pay him homage and presented him with gifts worthy of a king: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This is where our story ends. This story and these people went on to change the world as they knew it and as we know it. That is why each year at this time, we remember the story and celebrate the birth of Christ. That's it.